and welcome. As we explored two charming villages we discovered while touring through the beautiful region of Provence. We visited Valensole and Saignon during the next leg of our journey, travelling from Antibes to Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. It's all part of our 2,000 mile plus EV road trip around France, completed in a little over 2 weeks. From our base in Saint-Rémy, we'll be discovering even more beautiful Provençal villages over the coming days. So if you don't want to miss those adventures, hit subscribe and click that notification bell to follow the rest of our journey. Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's start exploring. Our first port of call is Valensole, right in the heart of Provence's famous lavender-growing countryside. However, we're visiting in mid-September on a Saturday just before lunch, and the peak of the lavender season of June and July is long gone. It's all rather sleepy now, but in the height of summer, this peaceful village is a very different place. So there are still several options when it comes to finding somewhere to eat. We can certainly recommend the lavender crème brûlée at the Brasserie de Plateau de Valensole. Or you can pick up a gift from one of the shops selling all things lavender. But we're here to delve into Valensole's history, starting at the Lavoir. This was once the village's communal wash house where local women gathered to wash their clothes, exchange news, and no doubt to share a little gossip. So a little bit of history. And to begin with, nobody really knows the origins of the name Valensole. It may mean Valley of the Sun, but historians still don't entirely agree. Valensole may be famous for its lavender, but its history goes back much further. People were living across the plateau during Gallo-Roman times. The Hilltop village probably began to take shape around the 8th or 9th century. The village was built in an amphitheatre shape for protection and to help shelter it from the mistral winds sweeping across the Valensole Plateau. And although lavender now dominates the landscape, almonds once ruled the plateau. During the 19th century, much of the surrounding land was covered with almond trees. Another staple of Provence. Lavender has grown wild here for centuries, introduced by the Romans, but demand increased dramatically with the growth of the perfume and cosmetic industries during the late 19th century. By the 1920s, lavender, a hardier hybrid variety, was being cultivated, eventually creating the vast purple fields we see across the plateau today. However, what we find on this Saturday in September is a sleepy little village that we find utterly charming. So with our Polestar 2 charging in the village car park, we decide to stop for a light lunch. Well, that was the plan until we spotted the lavender crème brûlée. Then with both ourselves and the car recharged, it's time to head on to our next destination, Saignon. Saignon is a beautiful hilltop village in the heart of the Luberon. We'll return to this region on a day trip from Saint-Rémy, where we'll discover another 5 charming Provençal villages. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that adventure. And the map at the end of this video will show you exactly where we're heading. But as we head towards the parish church of Notre-Dame-de-Pitié, let's dip our toes into the little Saignon's history. People have lived here since prehistoric times, and during antiquity the village was probably used as a lookout and signalling station. In fact, the name Saignon may have come from signum, the Latin word for signal. We step outside the church and discover the cemetery, which as regular viewers of the channel will know, with Janice was inevitable. However, from here you can enjoy beautiful views across the countryside while soaking up the peace and tranquility. You may feel you've stepped into your favourite French set movie, whether that's Chocolat or France and Gouttiere. It's also the perfect place to stop for a coffee and a delicious French pastry, or on a warm day like today, perhaps an ice cream. Anyway, back to the history lesson. It may be hard to imagine today, but by the 10th century, this naturally defensive position had become a fortified settlement. Remarkably, 3 separate castles once stood within this small area: the Château de Rocher, Château Majon, and Château de Cougier. The ruins can be spotted around the Rocher de Bellevue today, and the village's coat of arms features 3 golden castles in their memory. And just when you thought Saignon couldn't get any prettier, we stumble across the beautiful Place de la Fontaine. Surrounded by beautiful old stone houses and colourful climbing plants, this little square feels like it's the very heart of the village, and at its centre is an ornate fountain shaded by a magnificent old tree, creating a welcome escape from the warm Provençal sun. With its pastel shutters, cafe tables and gently trickling water, it feels more like a film set than somewhere people actually live. And within the square we discover another glimpse of village life, one of Saignon's historic lavoirs. There are two in the village, both fed by the springs of the Valensole, and from washing clothes to producing olive oil, we discover another reminder of everyday life in Old Saignon. Built into the rock is this fascinating Troglodyte olive oil mill. It was once powered by an animal turning a heavy grinding stone, and remarkably it continued producing oil until the 1940s. Saignon was also an important religious centre during the Middle Ages. The nearby abbey of St. Eusèbe was first recorded in 1004 and was later rebuilt with its new church consecrated by Pope Urban II in 1096. The abbey survived until the French Revolution, when it was sold into private hands. As we stroll past Saignon's Tour de l'Orange, the old leaves seem to invite us further into the village. Weathered stone walls, faded shutters and overflowing window boxes make every little corner seem like a picture waiting to be captured. And this is often the joy of exploring places like Saignon. There is no need for a map. Just choose a lane and see where it leads. So which way would you go? Would you follow us uphill or disappear down one of those narrow streets and discover a hidden corner of your own? So our adventure is nearly at an end, and we will return the way we came, and that's no hardship, to the free car park at the end of the village. Our visits to Valensole and Saignon have been wonderful additions to an already incredible scenic journey. Neither village was simply somewhere to pause along the way. Each offered something quite different, from the sweeping landscapes and trimmed lavender fields surrounding Valensole to Saignon's quiet lanes, historic buildings and breathtaking views. They are exactly the kind of places that make us enjoy taking the slower route through France. Our next destination is Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, a town we have visited and stayed in several times before. It is somewhere we know well and are always very happy to return to. And because we're staying for 3 nights, there is no need to rush our arrival this afternoon, so we can continue enjoying the scenery, taking our time on the road. After all, on a journey like this, getting there is often every bit as enjoyable as the destination itself. Now, our story isn't quite over yet. As promised, we have 5 more villages to share with you in a later instalment of this series. They are Pernes-les-Fontaines, Les Îles-Sasorgues, Goult, Minerve and Iligueres. Apologies for my French pronunciation. I'll pop up the full playlist at the end of this video, so you can follow the rest of our epic French road trip. For now though, it just leaves me time to say thank you so much for watching. We really hope you've enjoyed exploring these 2 Provençal gems as much as we have. Until next time, stay safe, stay well, and as always, happy travels.